Hello!
Hello, all. Welcome to Thursday night. It is Thursday night, right?
Thursday night, yeah.
Okay.
I'm kind of losing track of the days here in the summertime.
Thursday night, generational change. I'm Jen.
I'm Peter. It definitely feels like the summer.
And we're eating because we're hungry. But anyway, so tonight's a great show. We're going to show a video that the story is my Pilates instructor, Emily, forwarded me this video and said, I thought you would like this. This guy did this cool video. And I did. And we reached out to him, and his name is Rollie, and he's coming on our show. But we're going to show the video in a few minutes. It's really cool. And I was just very impressed with it. I think it's like 8 minutes or something like that.
Great to hear, Addie, that you think that this show is great along with Climate Town. Of course, that is for Rollie. So the reason why we were running a little late is because we have been meaning to get food from this lobster roll truck, small business.
Food truck.
It's called the Chubby Mermaid.
But that was the name. I couldn't remember the name. But when we went, I think, you know what? So we went, it was probably after 8. They were gone.
Probably.
Okay. So that's what it is.
Well, they
it just
were leaving
runs
like right
earlier.
now.
Okay.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
So it just runs earlier than I thought. Okay. So we should just, I guess, we have a bunch of news. We have story time today.
Hey, Kira.
I have a story time for everybody. So we have some interesting things. Hi, Kira. So what do you want to do other than shovel food?
Amazing.
Other than shovel food in your mouth? Well, nobody told me they were going and offered to get anything
You're
for
getting
me.
the other half.
Okay. So what do you want to do? Did you like how I did that?
I think it looks great. Now,
it's so funny though.
We had initially, you put the sombrero on her head.
Yes.
Don't worry if the K-Hive finds out about this, and they may very well find out about it.
Oh my God. They already hate me. The K-Hive hates me, but anyway.
That's all good. They'll get over it. So obviously, news is very important. There's obviously a lot of different things that we want to talk about here. But there's no question that one of the big stories that just came about today, which is in perfect conjunction with what just happened in Alaska, which is Alaska Native Corporation is protecting its land from gold mining, which of course we know that the reason they're doing that is just more pillaging to the environment.
Yeah.
But if you think that story's big, obviously the much, much bigger one is the fact that the Keystone XL pipeline has officially been crushed.
Yay.
And that's a big deal.
Yay. And we're talking, my understanding was that was with the Lakota Sioux in South Dakota. Like that was the main thing was South Dakota. I'm not sure if that's of what you're speaking. So how was that squashed?
Well, I think what ends up happening with native land and protecting their land is they have to deal with a bigger overarching problem, which is, the clean water supply, living conditions, things of that nature. And so because it becomes much more precarious for the people who are living there. Remember, it was a very hot button issue for a while, but then the attention kind of got drawn away from it. And that's usually how these things end up happening. The people who are committed to protecting their land, like the Native Sioux were willing to do, eventually it doesn't make financial sense to continue trying to make this pipeline work. So they ultimately shut it down.
Good.
Blue Bandit, as always, welcome to the show. Remember, guys, hit the like button, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't, share, like, comment, do all that good jazz. And again, this was something that should have been dealt with a long time ago. And of course, it had nothing to do with President Biden signing an executive order.
No.
Neither did Obama, neither did Trump. So we're kind of on our own. It's really up to us to make that difference. That's really what it comes down to. And so that is probably the only good news that we can really talk about at the moment, because there has just been a plethora of bad stuff just coming down the pike this week.
Definitely.
And as we know, today was the last day in New York in the current session to bring the New York Health Act to the floor. Now, as far as we know, that never happened.
No.
Once banned, for-profit medical schools are on the rise again in this country. While we continue to move closer towards a universal healthcare system, the for-profit corporations are trying to squeeze as much out of the system that they possibly can before it goes kaput. So this is not entirely surprising.
Well, it's so disgusting. It's being okay. So we're predatory in healthcare, and we're predatory in the training for people to go into healthcare. But what's bad about this is that I specifically believe that both healthcare and education should not be for-profit institutions. And so this is doubly crappy. I think that what happens is you start seeing different types of students that wouldn't necessarily qualify to be in school. I don't think that it's like an ideal situation. And I think it's a lot for people who maybe can't get into medical school. So it might seem like that's a good plan. It's not a good plan.
No,
it's not a good plan. And the student loans will be astronomical. So not only are you going to get predatory for-profit pricing, then you're going to have predatory loan sharks on top of you to pay back that predatory pricing. Like it just seems it's fraught with complication. So I think it's really disappointing.
This is ultimately what ends up happening in late stage capitalism, where again, they're trying to squeeze as much blood from a stone as they possibly can before the whole thing keels over. So when people say, we're moving towards universal health care, we have state programs on the table right now in New York, Washington, and California. How do you even start up with something like this again? And the reason is because they know things are starting to, they're losing their grip. So they're trying to get whatever they can out of it right now. Kind of like here in Florida. Very good lobster roll, by the way. Please try. We are at a point now where what I think a lot of people are not recognizing, and this is the big deal. When you know that you're running out of time, you start doing things that make absolutely no sense. So sea level rise is out of control here in Florida. Everyone knows that. So what's the solution? Keep developing. Build, and build more. And why is that? Because developers never have to worry about whether or not their properties survive. They are only in it to build it. They're not in it to own it or maintain it. That is the insurance company's problem, and that is the homeowner's problem. So the developers in Miami, in Broward, and all throughout, probably all throughout the state, but especially down here. If you go into Miami right now, you wouldn't even know where to look. There are so many construction cranes everywhere. They do not stop building.
It's a concrete jungle. Like all you see is concrete. All right.
1,000%.
So do you want to, I think we should show our
Thank
video.
you, Kara. That means a lot. Yeah, no, well, he's coming on at 8:30.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we should do it.
All right.
Right
so then
like
you want to talk, I mean, I personally have no interest in discussing, I want to discuss neither Joe Manchin or Kamala Harris, actually.
Well,
neither of those people interest me.
The thing about Joe Manchin that you have to remember is that today, Dianne Feinstein decided to stick her nose in the mix when it comes to eliminating the filibuster. Now, there's an argument to be made to keep the filibuster or to get rid of it. The reason why you would keep it is because all signs point to a bloodbath for the Democrats next year. And if McConnell takes power one more time in what I do believe will probably be his last term as a U.S. Senator, he will go scorched earth.
Here's hoping.
He will go scorched earth, and having only to get a 50 vote. That's the thing. If the GOP led by him has the ability to go scorched earth on the Democrats, they're going to do it. And there is no one who will salivate more at that prospect than somebody like him. And so I can understand the argument to keep it, but that's not why people like Dianne Feinstein or Joe Manchin are looking to keep it. They're just looking not to have to deal with actually getting anything done in D.C. I believe that the only significant piece of legislation that is on the table right now that is what I would consider to be solid legislation is the PRO Act. I actually do think that if we were able to pass legislation that would supersede right-to-work laws in states throughout the country, that would help the working class immensely.
How did you get on this with the Joe Manchin thing?
Well, because one of the reasons that they're really going after Manchin is because they want to pass the Voting Rights Act. See, this is a very partisan issue here. They are making this out, like this is a really serious hot button issue here as it pertains to voting rights. And while there are certain components to the bill that actually do make sense, there's also this component of the bill that makes no sense.
Wow.
You are trying to put certain cap measures when it comes to campaign contributions that basically make it unlimited. It's almost like a slice of Citizens United in terms of that. And then, of course, they make it significantly harder, as they always do, for third parties to build an infrastructure. So there's always these kickers that come along with it. Now, I don't think it's going to pass. I think it's just one of those bills that they put out there to basically rile up the base and make you think that they're really trying to help with voting rights.
And again, I really think that when it comes to like good guy, bad guy with Joe Manchin, it's really like out of a professional wrestling situation. I think it's like, okay,
100%.
you be the bad guy today. Because really they're going nowhere and they're intentionally going nowhere.
That
so
is correct.
They have to keep it looking like they're trying to do something.
Well, that's the whole thing about playing it for the crowd. It's kabuki theater, as you like to say.
It is.
And there's no question that is what is going on here. But
and make no mistake, I think Manchin's a pig.
He is.
So,
but
think
about it. One day it's cinema, then the next day it's Manchin.
They're pretty bad.
And now it's Feinstein. And this is the rotating villain.
It doesn't
This is
even
not
matter.
stopping. This is going to continue.
Please, they blamed the parliamentarian at one point. The parliamentarian was the bad guy.
And
like they'll lose any
the parliamentarian again because they think people are going to actually fall for it. Again, they're not going to fall for it again. We had a great conversation earlier today with Charles Lee, I think was her name. Lila Charles Lee. It's amazing how you learn how the sausage is made, and then once you learn how it's made, there is no going back. That more or less is what it comes down to, and I think that's a great segue to what is considered the end, which is, of course, Vice President Harris telling migrants not to come to the U.S. border.
Yet. Sound advice.
Even if that is correct.
Grotesque.
Here's the problem.
But sound.
The entire time that Trump was in office, all she kept saying was, come to the border, come to the border, come to the border. Now that they're in power, they're saying, don't come to the border. People are sick of the hypocrisy. That's what it's about. It's not whether you agree with Harris or not. It's the fact that it's all about changing your tune, all for the sake of grabbing power.
But look how I gave her a sombrero.
Because,
I wanted to give her maracas too, but I just couldn't figure out like the way to fit it in there. Right?
Maybe to have her hands go up like that and whatever.
I feel like she should. Yeah. She's just feckless.
She is. And again,
completely feckless.
If she thinks that she's ever going to be president, she better hope that Joe has to step away or keels over. Because that's about it. Hate to say it, but it is the truth. Because aside from her completely duplicitous nature, I always maintain that K-Hive will eventually come back and bite her in the butt. It's just going to happen. So do we want to do the Oligarch Chronicles
No, I
now,
think we should do. I
after?
think we should do our video just because we should just do our
So
video.
For everybody who is going to be joining us this evening, we obviously emphasize the importance of, if we're going to advance the environmental movement, we have to be very realistic about how we are going to achieve our long-term goals. One of those goals that I do think cannot be emphasized enough is the importance of focusing on a ban on plastic. When you see this video, you will understand why.
So
plastic can be reused.
It cannot be recycled. And so everybody really needs, this was like, I mean, I suspected as much, but anyway, so again, for anybody who's coming on, this is a video that was made by a friend of a friend. And she had forwarded it to me. I guess she knows him from her college days, whatever. So I really liked it. And so that's what we're going to do. So
sit back, relax, and enjoy. And I'm going to finish my dinner.
Yeah. It's all good. Hold on. This.
See if you get this right.
Share audio.
That's probably what happened last time.
It is what happened last time. All right, ready? I'm going to do this.
Hey, I was supposed to jump out of this to kind of scare you, but it turns out that's funnier on paper than it is in practice. So I hope you don't mind too much. Boy, I got a lot of plastic here. Don't worry, I'm going to be putting it in a recycling bin because I'm not a sociopath or some kind of libertarian. But here's the thing. Most of this plastic will end up in a landfill or burned or in the ocean. And that's because most plastic is not recyclable. Oh, but it's got the recycling symbol right on it. This is the recycling symbol created in 1970. And this is a resin identification code created by the plastics industry in 1988 to trick people into thinking plastic was recyclable and therefore may be okay for the environment. Plastic recycling is a lie to sell more plastic. I'm Rollie Williams, climate science grad student and guy who couldn't find a men's jumpsuit that fit him, but a women's jumpsuit is actually kind of working for me. And I hate to say this, but plastic recycling is an actual scam. Welcome to Climate Town. The beginning of the plastic recycling as a scam story starts with World War II. Do I have your attention now, everybody's dad? Anyway, at the beginning of the most camera-ready war in history, the US government felt that a flexible, lightweight material might really help our boys give the Jerry's the old piss and vinegar. So the government forced early plastics companies to work together, to crank out plastic, and to have little slumber parties where they shared their plastic-making secrets. And the modern plastic industry was born. Also, Brad totally has a crush on you.
Oh my God, no he doesn't.
Yes, he does. He told me. He told me. Since plastic is made out of oil and natural gas, plastic companies sprang out of existing fossil fuel corporations and their hot cousins, the chemical industry. And the nightmare lobby industry group, the Society of the Plastics Industry, was born. And I'm pretty sure that's the last we'll be hearing of them in this video about how the plastic industry scammed America. Anyway, it was their job to get the American consumer, a group of people who had never really bought plastic, to start buying a shit ton of plastic. Lucky for them, plastic kicks ass. Plastic was lightweight, cheap, it performed better than other substances, and it had the ungodly power of the fossil fuel industry behind it. Basically, plastics blew through America like measles at an anti-vaxxer water park. But when Americans were saving their plastic to reuse it, lobby groups just bought advertisements telling them, throw it out every time, we'll just make more plastic out of our unlimited, consequence-free supply of fossil fuels. And that's when plastics came up against their first big hurdle.
On April 22nd, 1 in every 10 Americans took part in the public outcry on that first Earth Day led to political action.
Well, that actually wasn't going to work for the plastics industry, but they had a compromise they felt would work for everybody. They'd lie. So the plastics industry, fossil fuel corporations, and a number of other companies formed a front group called Keep America Beautiful. They got an Italian guy, dressed him up like a Native American stereotype, and then shot this commercial.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country, and some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
I mean, yes, sure, they could have just easily made their products less disposable, but why do that when you can just spend a few $1 million on an advertisement to convince you it's your fault there's more trash everywhere? And it worked for a while. See, the old depressed Italian maneuver got people to start throwing their trash in trash cans and even started some regional recycling programs. But when a louder call to end single-use items like plastic cropped up in 1987, the plastics industry decided it was time to take another trip to Scamville, where they were pleasantly surprised to find they were already the mayor. Okay, do you remember the Society of the Plastics Industry? Oh my God, they're back? Well, anyway, they genuinely did want recycling to work. So they looked into it in the 1980s and discovered, to their horror, that plastic can't really be recycled. The same chemical properties that make it moldable and flexible also make it degrade after 1 or 2 uses. I mean, that's not a recycle, that's a re-loop-de-loop. But even worse than any of that, recycling is expensive and labor intensive, and making new plastic from fossil fuels is almost always cheaper forever. Plastic industry documents clearly concluded that there were no effective market mechanisms for mixed plastic, and that there is serious doubt that it can ever be made viable on an economic basis.
There was never an enthusiastic belief that recycling was ultimately going to work in a significant way.
I think they knew that the infrastructure wasn't there to really have recycling amount to a whole lot.
But even though they knew recycling had zero chance of stopping plastic from just f***ing the world, they knew that if they could get people to believe recycling worked, they might have a chance of stopping an actual plastic ban. You know what? I'm being too cynical. Do we have like a relevant clip I could roll right here?
If the public thinks the recycling is working, then they're not going to be as concerned about the environment.
Well, that's not good. But the old Society of the Plastics Industry had a plan. While most plastic could never be recycled, technically, some plastic could be recycled. So in 1988, they created a front group called the Council for Solid Waste Solutions, and they quietly lobbied nearly 40 states to pass legislation that required a symbol they created be printed on every single piece of plastic produced in America. Enter the Resin Identification Code. Officially, just a way to say what type of plastic the item is made out of. Now, to be clear, this is not a recycling symbol. See, the recycling symbol was public domain as of 1970, so the plastics industry just kind of borrowed it, stuck a number inside, and now it's a completely different symbol. What do you mean it looks like the recycling symbol? Don't you see the number inside? Of the 7 kinds of RICs, only 1s and 2s are commonly taken, and even they have a slim chance of actually being recycled. But the plastics industry has made sure that every single piece of plastic has a recycle symbol on it, except no, they didn't, because that's not a recycle symbol. It's a resin identification code, because it's got a number.
If the public thinks the recycling is working, then they're not going to be as concerned about the environment.
So whenever the environmental movement would build up a head of steam, the plastic industry and fossil fuels would just pour millions of dollars into recycling campaigns until calls for plastic reduction died out. Then they just pull their funding and all the recycling initiatives collapse until it's time to promote recycling again. For all the millions of dollars spent touting the wonders of recycling, only 10% has ever been recycled. Well, damn, Daniel, what are we gonna do? Well, first of all, we gotta stop treating recycle like it's the Beyonce in the Destiny's Child of reduce, reuse, recycle. Beyonce is reduce, reuse, and recycle is the other two. Second, we gotta keep recycling. And I know, I just spent like 8 minutes shitting on recycling, but recyclers are the only people keeping that number at 10% and not 0%. In fact, any percent of a massive amount of plastic is still significant. And finally, we have to stop thinking about this like it's a problem we can solve with a quiet little choice at the grocery store. Legislation got us into this problem. Legislation's got to get us out. We got to pressure our governments to pass a ban on single-use plastics. How bad is the problem? Great question. The plastic lobby has actually passed legislation preemptively banning plastic bans. That's right, it's a ban, and it's going to murder our planet if we can't get a hold of our legal system. It's going to take a group of people working together, so please, be one of those people. In the description of this video is a list of all the active plastic legislation and the groups behind it. If you have a second, and let's face it, you probably do have a second if you just watched this video, consider clicking on some of these links and joining me.
There we go.
So that was a pretty informative video, I would say.
Okay, first of all, let's just say props to Jen for the technology that went into that, where everybody could see and hear. That to me was like, I think I'm really making it. I'm making it. All right, guys. So anyway, that's the video, and Rollie's here, so we're gonna bring him on, and we're gonna just start, chatting. But and I'm gonna do a segue into the fact that this is a fellow pool player, which I had no idea about that until I did a little Google and saw that this is somebody who's like pool shark material. So we're gonna have to.
Are you a pool shark?
When I was in college, I worked at the pool hall, and I ended up playing on our little 8-ball team, and we went down to Arizona State, and it was great. I mean, and I'm okay. Like, I'm okay. It requires a lot of effort and practice for me to really be okay. And then there were these guys that were just so like, look, my dad plays better with one hand than me. My dad's awesome. But thank you, Mixtape Wheezy. I agree.
Yes, well, not only that, but apparently somebody found their new favorite channel as well. So without further ado, we are going to bring in a very funny gentleman who makes learning about our environmental scam system that much more interesting.
I know. I was sitting there alternating between like laughing and furious.
Well, I think we could definitely agree that it is both funny and furious at the same time. Rollie Williams from Climate Town, welcome to Generational Change.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me on. I'm so pumped to be here.
Do you know how I came across you? Do you know the story?
I have no idea. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so do you have a friend named Emily?
Oh, I have like 5 of them.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, this
I'm
Emily,
a very popular guy with Emily.
I know you are, but this Emily has a cousin named Emily who is my friend and my Pilates instructor down in Florida. And she forwarded me your video from her that she got from her friend Emily. And I guess that's how she had met you at some point. And she said, "This looks like somebody you guys would want to talk to." And that was how I found that.
Wow, the double Emily connection is a rare one. I'm so happy that we were able to make that happen.
That's awesome. So talk a little bit, because once I looked you up, there's really more about you playing pool.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
No, well, no, it's cool. Than anything. So I mean, where are you coming from in terms of like how you got involved in this, how you got involved in doing a plastics video? It seems sort of like, you know, a little ancillary to and what do you play? Do you play 9-ball?
I guess I play them all. I just like it all. Just anytime you're shooting balls with sticks, I'm happy. I'm a happy guy.
It is very addicting, and I did get hustled by a couple of friends when I was growing up, but I think I got a little.
My dad used to make his money when my dad was in high school. That was one of the things that he did. He and his friend, they had a hustle. They had a routine, and they would drive around in rural parts and places in Florida. They're lucky they didn't get killed. This was a lot of years ago, and had a scam, and he would make money.
Damn, that's and sorry, can we swear on this thing? I didn't.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, we're not. We are already so horrifically suppressed as a channel.
It doesn't matter. Let it fly.
Got it. Okay, cool. Damn, I said. Yeah, that's hustling is kind of a lost art. It's
right
because the internet is coming out and people can be like, "Hey, do you know this guy who just won like $40,000 at our pool hall?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, that's Blackjack Slim, you know," and he's like hustled everybody up from Mason-Dixon to Kalamazoo, which honestly, I don't know how far that is. It could be like 10 miles, but anyway, he's a hustler and you should shoot him if he walks into your pool hall. So that's, really? I mean, a lot of people really awesome. got because they tried to hustle. So I'm glad your dad survived long enough to make you.
Yeah. You know what? This is how I actually worked in Colorado in the pool hall on campus. It was like at the university center. We had a bowling thing and a pool hall and an arcade. And
which university?
University of Colorado.
CU Boulder, baby. We're talking the Buffs.
I am.
Buffs. Here we go, Buffs.
Pre-internet, granted. So, you know, but I was just the girl behind the register. But like you would get these guys coming in and I'd be like walking around cleaning up or whatever. And they would want to be like teaching me how to play pool. And so
toxic masculinity.
Right. Yeah. So I would just, you know, that's the only time, but I never for money. It was never for money. It was more just to make people look stupid.
Yeah. I think that's in a lot of ways that's worth more than money. So I'm happy that you found value in it. Yeah. That's, it's an interesting thing. I got into pool because my grandmother's basement flooded and she used to have a pool table down there. And I just like begged my parents to let me have it in our basement. I said, okay. And we've had it down there ever since. And that's where my love of pool started.
That's really cool. So talk about how you got involved in Climate Town, how you ended up being like the spokesperson for, you know, the women's jumpsuit movement. And how you ended up
they
in
really
this
picked
video.
the wrong person for that spokespersonship.
So yeah, just talk about how you got into that and where the background of this video came from with your involvement.
Sure. Yeah. It all goes back to I'm a comedian and I moved to New York to do comedy from Colorado, where we both hail from, I think, and also at least 50% of the Emilys in your story are from Colorado area. And so I was growing up there and I was doing comedy out there, and then I moved to New York and I did comedy for several years, and then a show that I pitched got picked up at a theater called Caveat. And it was called An Inconvenient Talk Show. And in this show, I played kind of a strung out Al Gore kind of character on, I referred to it as, because it was like, climate change, that thing I've been talking about is real. So, you know, you guys all owe me an apology. And after a couple years of doing that, it was like a show that the premise of the theater was that it had to be, by the way, this microphone's not plugged into anything. Is that okay? Am I coming in okay?
It's
I just did it
fine.
for effect because you guys had those sweet microphones with those pop filters and everything.
We're very fancy here.
Yeah.
So you're talking into like a unhooked microphone?
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to change anything. I just wanted to be popular, Jen. I just saw you guys do it.
So where are you? So you're doing comedy. Clearly you're funny. Like clearly
Thank
you're funny.
you.
Well, and I'm also really
sweating over here.
We had a happy hour. I was on a happy hour talk show before where every 15 minutes, like an alarm would go off and she took a drink and I had to smoke a bowl. So, I mean,
Rollie, you got to be quick. When somebody says that you're funny, you got to say, I'm funny how?
I feel like if I use that, then at some point somebody's going to be like, oh, he's the funny how guy. He's the guy who always says funny how. And I don't want to be pigeonholed like that.
All right, so go back to the story. So you were doing comedy, and then the Climate people appropriated you.
No. I am the Climate Town people.
Okay.
So I was doing this live show, and at some point, I was getting like my guests were climate scientists and then comedians. So it was like people from SNL, Late Night with Seth Meyers, like these comedians would come on. And then we'd have a climate scientist and I would interview them like a talk show, but it was also a sketch show. It was really fun. We had a great time. And then eventually it became clear to me through like researching for the show that that climate change was just more important than any of the other shit that I had going on. So I enrolled at Columbia University for a climate science policy degree. And then a couple years into that, COVID happened. And so you couldn't do live shows. And so I pivoted. I turned the parts of the live show that I thought were the funniest, I turned that into a series called Climate Town. And so like I'm a video editor by trade. And so like I did all my own editing and mostly my own videography. And eventually it just kind of got to a point where I would like learn something in class and then research it and then write a script for it and punch up the comedy. And then I also have like comedy friends. So I could like send the script out and they would say like, oh, tweak this joke. This isn't funny. What the fuck are you talking about? And then I would make the changes. And then I have a bunch of friends all over New York who are videographers. So they'll come and shoot an episode or direct an episode here or there.
Where is Climate Town?
That's a great question. It's just sort of a name at this point. Like it has no mayor or comptroller or anything.
No, I mean, where do people find your show?
Oh, got it. I thought you were asking like a meta question about the like canon
like a very existential, like very deep, like where is this? No, I meant like
allegedly you smoked 4 bowls. So these questions are questions that I would expect from somebody who's that.
I'm sorry. Normally I'm a little bit more sober, but on that happy hour really was hard.
No, I get it. I'm jealous if anything. I'm only lashing out because I wish I was where you were,
Well, where are you in New York still?
I'm in Brooklyn, yeah.
Brooklyn.
That's where my Emily from. She was an NYU person. She has a lot of friends that were NYU theater people. She's a theater geek.
I was going to say.
What's your Emily's last name?
Katz.
Say that again.
Katz with a K.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Like the deli.
Hey, any relation?
I don't think so. I mean, and technically we're all related because if your tribe really, we other than the Amish, we kind of have an inbreeding.
Yeah, dude, you have no idea. It's kind of scary.
It is like it freaks me out. Like, he'll talk about somebody. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so and so and my cousin or whatever. Like, it's Jewish geography is instead of 6 degrees, it's more like 1 or 2 of separation.
Well, congratulations. And ironically, it's more degrees from Kevin Bacon, which is not allowed to be eaten. So there's a little connection there for you.
We like Kevin Bacon.
So how often do you do your how often do you do a show?
Like a episode of Climate Town or like a live show?
Yeah, because I would have never known of this if she hadn't sent me the video of plastics. Like I didn't know this was a thing. So is it something on YouTube that people subscribe to?
Yeah, it purely exists in a digital space right now. I try to do an episode like more than 1 a month, but I haven't released an episode in 2 months based on a couple of extenuating circumstances like graduating, and I took a week off and I am mentally imploding. I don't know why, but I can't get anything done. But here is the script for the next video and we're shooting it tomorrow. So we'll have something done, hopefully.
That's really cool. Well, and you know what?
Yeah.
When people don't realize how much effort it takes to put even short things together. And I want to say something about how you're combining like comedy with actual facts and information that's real information. I think that's really cool. We do not see enough of that. You know, you're actually doing more of what journalists are supposed to be doing. And I feel like this is just more towards us living in that era where our comedians are being our journalists and our journalists are useless.
Well, it's kind of interesting you say that because, you know, the person, of course, who comes to mind is, you know, Jimmy Dore. And it's kind of just taken, it's just taken on this whole new approach to getting our information. You know, it's funny. You said that you were going to let it fly. We had Judah Friedlander on the podcast, and he really let it fly.
It was good.
He was great. And I honestly, it's a throwback because, you know,
never even watched 30 Rock. I don't know,
but I do think that the greatest comedian of all time is George Carlin. And you know, he obviously is not everybody's cup of tea, but he was the biggest, you know, truth speaker out of anybody I'd ever heard. And that's really what I thought comedians were supposed to be. And over the past several years with everything that's gone on, whether it be through COVID or just in the Trump era, there's just been this completely different approach. And you, of course, being in Brooklyn, you're kind of in the eye of the hurricane where a lot of that sort of change, if you will, kind of came about in terms of how comedians approach, you know, political issues. I'm wondering how you observe that and where it stands right now from your perspective.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I don't know that I would necessarily agree with this idea that comedy ever deviated from like a sort of a trailing narrative. I think maybe like mainstream comedy probably did.
Yes, that's what we're talking about. Yeah.
And again, like that actually links into, and I think like that's maybe what you were even saying the whole time.
Like late night, like how the shows have gotten like that. That's what he.
Yeah. I mean, even that though, like I think we know George Carlin was this like amazing like prophet essentially, but if you go watch his late night stuff, he's got a joke about like, I keep going to hotels and like they've got a little button kit, and so I like to sew buttons on all the lampshades, which is like, what? That's not a George Carlin joke at all. But he was like, he does like that sort of material, like his like the George Carlin material is like from his specials and his live stuff, and like I think it's easy to kind of like chart a course backwards by just the bright spots in the history of comedy and forget that like most comedy is live, or most live comedy that I've seen is like gritty and raw and a lot of like very politically charged stuff that like I think like in the mainstreamification there's been a sanitization of a lot of comedy because that's what you can sell to soccer moms in Michigan. But yeah, I think probably there's just been a lot more comedy, and the loudest stuff, the stuff that's getting the most attention, is just kind of like spineless, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my take. I'm not saying that's definitely true, but I think there certainly hasn't been a major departure from the general narrative that comedians are trying to like speak truth to power. Maybe there just hasn't been another person as good as George Carlin at that particual skill.
Well, I think we also see extraordinary censorship as well. But talk about like what your thought process is when you're trying to make something entertaining about climate crisis, and how is that? I mean, because really, it's not funny. You know, like it's ridiculous that we're even needing to do this, and that someone like you is the person that's promoting or exposing how the whole plastics industry was so sinister in its like how it created this idea of recycling, whereas that never occurred to me, although it should have. I'm not surprised at all. Like it's not shocking to me, but you know, how do you go about making stuff like that entertaining, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the like work was done by people like Jon Stewart, who just pioneered this concept of taking incredibly boring and mundane political bullshit and making it funny. Just like finding little ways to like insert a little bit of like a bit in here that's like a runner that, oh, every time I say this guy's name, I'm gonna like do a little audio cue or thing, just like kind of comedy around the information. Kind of like, I just thought about what I think is potentially a really good metaphor. You know how like there's like a grain of sand, and if you jam it into an oyster, it'll make a pearl by like coating it in something, mucus or some bullshit. I don't know how oysters work, but I think that's like, like they start with all the grains of sand of like, here's what we want to, the information we want to get across, then they like coat it with comedy and like ship it out the door. I think the point of, there's like a lot of different ways to do comedy. Like you can do stand up, you can do sketch. The particular type of comedy that I like the most right now is like, I'll take a big important concept that maybe not important, but like something that's really surprising and maybe even a little conspiratorial. And then I'll like try to write that out in a way that's kind of like a mystery being exposed. And then I'll just write jokes throughout it and shoot it and then write more jokes in post. So I think a lot of my favorite jokes kind of come in that I didn't even plan when I shot it, that like we can like cut between certain things in a way that's funny, or like hit a sound cue here, do a freeze frame and a punch in on somebody who walks by in the background is looking weird. And like, it's just like trying to take any opportunity to add humor to a pretty humorless subject. That's my strategy.
And we've had a few comedians on the show. So curious, where's your favorite spot in New York to perform, and where is basically your favorite spot around the country?
Well, and then we usually like to know, and where is the worst? Like, where is the crowd been the worst?
We have who was the comedian that we had on that was
David
like,
Cross.
Yeah, he's like, I will not go to Florida.
Well, I won't go to Florida.
It's like
Florida, yeah.
Oh, we've got a reputation and we've earned it. There's no question we have.
Yeah. So where's your favorite? Where's your least favorite?
I think a lot of my places, unfortunately, got the axe due to COVID. It turns out that like selling $5 tickets is not a way to like run a business. So like both UCBs in New York got shut down. My favorite place that I performed recently is Caveat Theater in Manhattan. I 1 or 2 times got to do a show at Comedy Works in Denver, and that was like, those shows were so fun because just the audience is really great. And I one time did a show at Squire Lounge, and it was awful. It's a little like shitty dive bar in Denver on Broadway Street, and it just like, it made me want to quit comedy. It was so sad. So
Denver was a bad experience for you.
Denver was a simultaneously great experience and a rough experience. But in that crowd's defense, I was terrible.
So you're from there. You're from Colorado.
No hometown love, man. I mean, look, I didn't do well. I didn't do funny jokes. Like if you're a comedian, there's a social contract you're entering into by taking a microphone that says you're going to do funny material. And people will not shout at you. That's the contract. And I broke that contract by not doing funny material. And I was sued for it in the form of getting no laughs.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh.
It builds up tough skin, though. I think that's the important part.
Well, so that's like running for office.
Yeah. Speaking of, how's that going?
We're not running right now. We're just sort of, what we ran in 2020. And I think, look, we ended up with a good platform. So I'm using it for all sorts of good things and spreading the word and doing a lot of service. We're very involved locally in service stuff. Our campaign was a very service-based campaign, and our volunteers all did community service. So we kind of just kept it going and really look at it as part of just this broader mission of what we're trying to do. And I just, when I find something interesting, I just think everybody should know about it. And I'm gonna share it. So whether it's a book that I read or a video that I see, I just like to I feel like if I got to use this platform, I got to educate the people.
Wow, that is very noble of you. Thank you very much.
No, it's not. I mean, really, I can honestly tell you from a completely selfish perspective, I'm really tired of being surrounded by morons. And so I feel like the more I put out there that educates people is the less morons I'm going to be surrounded around by. So it might be noble for some extent, but there is a certain self-serving element to it as well.
I also think that there's a lot of people who are aware that the people who are keenly aware, I mean, not a lot of people are, but the ones who are recognize that even though Trump is not president anymore, the precedent has been set that there are a lot of people who are sick and tired of the BS that goes on in this country from a political standpoint, and they are desperate for a new path. And one of the approaches that we've tried to take is this idea that if you really want to build a coalition, it has to be non-corporate, it has to be nonpartisan, and it has to lift up labor. And if you don't do that, you are literally on the hamster wheel. You are in this red-blue dynamic of that side's bad, we're good, and that's the way it has to be. No, you got to change that, because most people don't want to deal with this nonsense. Most people know that we need universal health care. You know, just like in New York, they're trying to pass the New York Health Act, and there's just this bureaucratic nonsense that most people would look at and say, yeah, this is why I don't want to have anything to do with it.
It's why we can't have nice things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. If you look at like we have, 7 to 8 billion people on the planet, and if we just worked as a unit, we could be a pretty sick place to live. Like we could really do some shit.
Yeah,
and it's and everyone knows that, but like we just can't get it together enough to do that, and that's a bummer.
Why are you putting that up? This is our friendly neighborhood troll. Hi, Declan.
Swearing is violence.
We think his real name is Declan because he used to be on here, but then he changed characters.
Jen wants that sweet insider trading. Let me tell
you. He's a fairly harmless troll, so we don't really.
Yeah, you got to. You know what? Again, it's like a heckler who's doing it for. He's doing it with for.
Look, he consistently shows up. He gives us views. He comments on this stuff. He's helping our algorithm. That's how I look at it. I don't really care.
He's barely a troll at that point. He's like a citizen of the community.
Right?
Comments, likes, and all that interaction actually does make a difference.
So that's what I tell him. Like,
you're welcome it. We're not going to say no.
Yeah.
Keep it respectful.
So we started this off of our campaign, and yet we still continue to get. Are you running again? Are you running again? Are you running again?
Well,
are you taking this opportunity to announce your 2022 campaign?
Yeah. No.
Oh, sorry.
You have to be very strategic, which I think is the biggest problem with the progressive left, or more so, like I said, this non-corporate, nonpartisan movement that we're trying to build. There are a lot of people who want to run and have ambitions of, grandeur and getting places and stuff. And that's great. But it really, you have to be real. I hate using the word realistic because it comes off like, you're
strategic.
You got to be strategic.
It isn't just a matter of, I want that job, I'm going to run for it and get in that job. There's a lot of variables. First of all, it's not a job for everybody. It's not necessarily a job for any one particular person, but it definitely requires a certain set of skills and characteristics for somebody to be able to be good at it, like anything.
And you also have to really know for certain, the person that you're backing, what their values are, if they're.
And the truth is, you have to be the right demographic for the right district.
That is true too. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're aware of what's going on with the mayoral race.
He's they're fixated on the New York mayoral race.
I think it's important.
Doesn't live there.
I know, but I do think it's important. And we had Diane Morales on the podcast, and I thought, she seemed really good, but this whole thing that happened with her staffers and the way that it just went completely kaput. And the election is literally around the corner. And we were very fortunate when Jen ran, because if you want to talk about what it's like to be ghosted when you're running for office, where people just want to pretend like we do not exist.
Try challenging Debbie Wasserman Schultz, see what happens.
And listen, I don't want to, we're very grateful for the movement that Bernie has essentially started. I do think that AOC brings more to the table in a good way than in a not so good way. But the one person of really considerable note who endorsed Jen when she ran was Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
And I cannot emphasize enough.
He stepped up for me.
And
he really did.
And it isn't so much how he stepped up.
His people.
The Yang Gang is one of the most committed group of people you will ever. If you're running for office, you want that group behind you.
They worked harder for us than the progressives did.
If he ends
than our local progressives did.
Yeah.
Oh my God. The Yang people, they did phone banking. They were on it.
If there's one thing I can say, whether he wins or loses, his people are not going to be outworked on the campaign trail. They are absolutely going to put in that work, whether it's in Brooklyn, Queens, the Bronx,
and
Manhattan,
they're smart,
wherever.
And they work strategically.
What's the fifth one?
Staten Island.
There it is. Staten Island.
I know
baby.
all my boroughs.
Although, if you want to be technical about it, the 5th borough is really Hoboken, but that's a whole other story.
If you want to be technical, the 6th would be South Florida, but we don't.
Yeah,
really
that's true too. That's true too. And
have you ever been down here, Rollie?
Island. No, one time, yeah. One time I was in like Doral.
Yeah, that's where Trump has his fame.
Totally.
Do
I have a wonderful, a really incredible, really amazing golf course there. If you've never been there, you totally want to go.
Good impression.
Here,
That's really
now
good.
You're encouraging him. Here it goes.
No, I think you should do that.
Listen, I would never come to Brooklyn.
Sorry,
they
Susie.
Totally don't vote for me. They're terrible people. They're really terrible people.
Wow.
I don't know why you live there. They're really terrible. They don't want to make
How
America
much-
great again.
How much more mileage do you feel like you can get out of that?
It's the problem. That's the thing. I'm
accent?
sick of looking
I'm
at
totally running again in 24.
it. You're going away.
I'm totally running again. Believe
He
me when I
does
tell you.
Bernie.
Believe me.
He does Trump, and he does Bill Clinton.
You know, I was thinking that whether I ever run, or if I ever did a comedy bit, you know, I could do
Two very similar things. Exactly.
Yeah, well, because politics is a joke.
It is a joke.
It's it just
Got
goes
him. Write that down. Write that down.
Yeah, definitely need a little draw. Yeah, write that down.
Write that
Just
down.
a little draw. Well, you're the one with the pen and paper.
Here,
not me. I'll
write it down.
I'll write it down.
You write
Okay,
it
there
down.
you go.
Take copious notes.
So yeah. So anyway, my point was is that, you know, there's a lot of people in the progressive movement who want everything to be a certain way, and they don't want to take whatever progress can ultimately be made.
They're all or nothing. They're
Yeah.
throwing out, like, they like to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
And even though there's there's definite a number of flaws with Andrew, but if Eric Adams ends up becoming the mayor of New York City, that is really going to set things backwards, at least from my perspective. And
Is he even in the running right now?
Oh yeah, but apparently
Polling
he's
way?
leading. I mean, he's the Brooklyn
What?
borough president. Yeah. But what I really think this is, and this is just my opinion, because again, we thought Diane was great, but we saw.
I
what
love how
happened.
you're telling the person in Brooklyn who his borough president is.
Well, again, a lot of people.
I just want to know what the polling says right now.
The polling says that the race is basically between 3 people. If we're being honest with ourselves in
It's
terms of
2.
where it is, you can put, well, AOC endorsed Maya Wiley, so you have to give her that. She's third, but right now, if you're talking about who the top 2 candidates are, just based on the consistency in the polling, it's Eric Adams, who's the borough president of Brooklyn, and it's Andrew Yang. So that's basically what the race is going to be like. But
you'll end up with one of those 2 people.
But it's going to be interesting because you've got ranked choice voting. So is that going to play a role? It's going to be very interesting to see where the votes ultimately end up going.
By the way, you realize that the ranked choice voting is only within the Democratic Party. It's not a New York thing, right?
True.
So I don't want to give people the wrong idea that all of a sudden they're just having general ranked choice voting. But props to their Democratic Party, because ours, we can't even get an unweighted vote without controversy.
But what I thought was very interesting that happened today is, obviously a lot of weight gets drawn from getting AOC's endorsement, but Andrew got the endorsement of what I believe is one of the best union endorsements you can get, which is the firefighters. So the firefighters actually endorsed Andrew today. And when they asked the president of the IAFF of New York City, why did you endorse Andrew? Very simple. We are tired of the political machine in New York City. That's it. That's what he said. And I understand that. It's not a question of whether we think Andrew is all or nothing. It's a question of we're tired of the bureaucracy.
The same thing.
And that's one thing about big city politics that really annoys people, is this idea of the entrenchment. And again, we got it down.
But maybe
here.
Once his campaign is over, we can get him to come on the show.
Yeah, we've been trying to do that, but again, it's not as easy as
small potatoes.
We're not small potatoes.
We're small potatoes.
We're not small potatoes.
I feel
you're a russet potato.
I feel fingerling potato.
Well, we're
tater tots.
We're tater tots.
Tater
That's
tots.
what we are.
There we go. Or mashed potatoes.
When you were in school, tater tots were definitely one of the things that you look forward to.
Yes, the tater tots.
There was a tater tot on the menu. I was hog wild that day.
Wait, did you say where you went to undergrad? Did you go to Boulder?
I actually went to CU Boulder for 1 semester in the middle of my sophomore year.
What'd you think?
It was nice. It was big. I took I was a chemistry major, so I took first semester of organic chemistry there, and it was challenging. I remember.
Yeah.
But I was mostly rock climbing a lot. so I can't
and
speak.
I'm sure
too
that
much
was
of
20 years after I was there. So, you know, I doubt we probably don't know the same things. I graduated in 92, which is
yeah, it would have been 2007.
Yeah.
I'm older than you.
Yes, no, he's young.
Yeah,
he's
you guys have aged tremendously well, both of you.
Us millennials, you know, we got
us millennials.
Well, you're a Gen Xer.
I'm a Gen Xer.
You know, we got a lot of weight to burden that really is gonna. Well, it's already falling on our shoulders in terms of the way the economy's moving and whatnot. But I do want to ask, and obviously this is one of the central. This is one of the central questions, obviously, of the evening, which is
not the one on the screen. That's
no, definitely
that's our troll.
But what inspired you to make the video? And obviously, it's gotten almost 500,000 views, so a lot of people have obviously become.
Great. Do you not follow that? Do you not? I mean, how long has that been up there? When did you first post this video?
I think it was posted in December, so it's had a couple months to get there. That's great.
Yeah,
I didn't realize it was over 400K. That's
it's like 450, 460. So yeah, it's gotten a lot. What the thing that I took away, I mean, obviously, I always suspected that there was scamming elements to it, but I always remember the image of the Indian with the tear, and when you find out that he wasn't even an Indian, I mean, you want to talk about
are you remotely surprised by this? This is the country of blackface.
But this is also a country that cannot and will not stop literally trying to clamp down on Native Americans.
Oh, you know, we're not going to be happy until they're all just gone. We just will not leave them alone. We cannot leave them alone.
I mean, it's an ongoing, slow-moving tragedy. The Americans' treatment of First Nation people, for sure.
Have you been following the pipeline stuff? Have you been following that, the pipeline stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the dropping of the Keystone by the company is a lot of people were really. I don't know. It felt like it made big news despite having been kind of shut down several months earlier. I don't know. I guess it was just like they're not fighting it anymore, which is fantastic.
Maybe it was just a formality? Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe they thought they were going to be able to wait out Biden or something, but I don't know. But yeah, to answer your question, I think what made me feel that or want to make that video was the resident identification code.
Yeah.
That really that really changed things for me when I found out that the plastic industry just made that look like a recycle symbol because people would then sort of think it was being recycled, and that just rubbed me the wrong way.
How did you find that out? Because I never knew that. Now, once you put them side by side, then I'm like, okay, that's clearly the original recycling symbol and whatever, but it's very misleading, obviously intentionally, but how did you find out about that? Because I think you're the person who told me. So who told you?
Oh, great. I think you told me. No, I either saw it in an article. So I knew that just a tiny fraction of 10% of plastic is actually recycled. And so I was like, okay, so there's some shit here. And so I watched a couple of documentaries on it. There's a fantastic, PBS made a fantastic documentary called Plastic Wars that just if you liked my video, the Plastic Wars just kicks my video right in the dick. It's amazing. So yeah, all the way.
But the awesome thing about your video is that it's not too long. And it's nice and concise and says, that's the thing. I do look at that before I engage in something, how much of a time commitment it is.
Although according to our social media team, potentially it's
5 minutes.
5 minutes is supposedly from the 12
to 24.
No, 34.
12
to 34 age demographic. You want to cap videos at 5 minutes. That's
who told you that?
Okay, so
team.
I got contacted a couple months ago by a professor at Mount San Antonio College, which is a community college in Southern California. Yeah. Cool. And she teaches an advanced PR class. And one of the things they do is they assign them actual clients, and they do a group project, and they come up with a proposal and a plan, and they do a presentation. And
I mean, it sounds like a college class to me. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. And she likes to find them things that are in the area that they're interested in. So for all her students that liked like our sort of nonprofit political sector, she asked if we would be a client. I said yes. We met with them. They got all of our background, all of our data. They took off for like 2 months and they put a presentation together yesterday. They had our logos, our demographic. Like it was blew me away. Right.
Congratulations.
But again, I was in college. There was no internet. So we were limited, but it was amazing. And so basically we got a free PR plan.
That's fantastic.
From really smart college students that understand social media infinitely better than we do.
And that gets back to the whole strategy thing about, you know, what do you want to do? Because, yeah, you want to be able to run for office. But I thought that the biggest mistake that Bernie made between 2016 and 2020 was there was never a big enough signal that was put out to a lot of the progressive groups that you really have to be in the party from, you know, a precinct committee captain perspective, you know, running to get on certain boards and things like that. You have to create that infrastructure. The state that has done it and has done it exceptionally well is Nevada. And one of the people who is running for Congress, who we think is exceptionally great, is Amy Vilela. And if you don't know her story, she's definitely somebody.
She was one of the people from in that, what was it? Knock Down the House.
Knock Down the House.
Knock Down the House. With the candidates. Remember AOC had that? They were in that movie. It was Cori Bush, AOC. Amy Vilela was one of them.
But her story is absolutely heartbreaking. She lost her daughter
because they have no health care.
Yeah, it's sick. It's absolutely sick.
She couldn't afford the treatment for her daughter.
And again, most people agree, almost universally at this point, that we do need. It's a super majority in this country now that agrees we need a universal healthcare system. So we have to start moving that needle in whatever capacity they want. We can. Be able to do. Again, of course, there's a lot of people who are very impatient, and I understand that. They don't think that the squad and people like that are doing enough. And you could make that argument, but I also would say that just having AOC instead of Joe Crowley, having Jamal Bowman instead of Elliot Engel, being able to put Medicare for All into the ether throughout all of New York, I think there's a real progressive movement that has been brewing in New York for quite some time, and I think you guys are doing a great job. I really do.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, a lot of people like.
I'll take all the credit for that.
Yeah, it's all you. It's all thanks to you. So, and what do you see is like the call to action when you're making a video? Because we generally, when we do something, we're like, okay, what are we going to ask people to do? Like, what is it that people can actually do? Obviously, stop using single-use plastics. But what was the sort of mission that you were seeking from your video from Climate Town? Like, what are you wanting to? What's your push? Are you vegan?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there is a big hang up that America has on personal responsibility and has always had. And so that's the question that everyone always asks me, like, what can I do? And it's like, well, you can probably not make a difference by your personal actions. And like, doing that, like, if you are like going out of your way to like every day, every single thing you do, you like sort it out and you strip out all the recyclable plastic and you like recycle the only stuff that can be recycled and you make sure it gets to the destination. If you're expending all your energy doing that, you're probably releasing a little valve in your brain that says like, I need to do more. You're probably like feeling like you're doing a lot when really that's actually not doing much. So when people ask me like, what can I do? It's always like, get involved, start many organizations, or if nothing else, get educated, get like super educated on this shit. Like read all that you can read, like read books too, not just like the latest New York Times article or like whatever thing came through Reddit, or get as educated as possible. And the solutions come through understanding the context of the problem. And not through like somebody telling somebody else to like, don't eat a chicken sandwich once a week. That's my personal
it's understanding the root causes and really understanding your place in that process as best as you can and doing the things that you can do. I mean, that's how I do things. Like I do what I can, where I can. I think about it. I'm mindful of it. It's, but I don't run around like, we got to get rid of the straws. We got to get rid of the straws. Because
sure, yeah, that's a big distraction.
It is. And to me, until we deal with the military-industrial complex and big agri, when it comes to dealing with climate crisis, we're all just spinning our wheels. Because those.
Well, I mean, yeah, but also like it's a wicked problem, right? It's like 15 problems all tied into one.
Yeah.
So like to say that like, oh, we got to solve military-industrial complex plus big ag, and that, you know, it's like, well, it's sort of, we sort of need to just do all of these things at the same time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's like splitting off or figuring out what your personal, like you guys being as politically oriented as you are, like running for office, that's like a huge move. Like spending that much time is a huge move, and that can make real shit happen. I don't think I have it in me to run for an office, but I do have it in me to like make a YouTube video or go to college about this, you know, and like people watching this, if you're watching this out there, the guy who's trolling everybody, like you're doing a good job, troll guy. We call him Declan, maybe. That's great.
His name's Declan, right?
Great. I mean, and whatever your name is, like I'm not prejudiced about names. Like your name could be Slagathor. I don't care. But like you can expend your energy doing whatever you're best at, and maybe that's trolling people. In which case, like, go to town on these dipshits who are these Congress people who refuse to kill the filibuster. Go to town on these people online, you know, like that actually weirdly does shit. Like a flood of negative comments will change people's minds sometimes. So think about that.
Yeah.
That's
our call to action. We did a live stream telethon for Julian Assange, and our call to action was the Department of Justice comment line and having everybody kind of flood it, demanding that they drop the charges. And we're planning to do something similar for healthcare and supporting the New York Health Act. So
yeah, they're going to be doing a nationwide Medicare for All march in New York. A bunch of cities are going to be participating, and this is on July 24th. July 22nd, 2 days before, we're going to do another telethon, and we want to bring as much attention to this issue as we can with a call to action. And I do think that the state that I think is closest right now is New York. I do think that the New York Health Act is really generating a lot of interest.
Where will it be come that date? Like, will it even be? Will it be a moot point?
It probably will at that point, but that doesn't mean that you don't continue bringing attention to it. And you know, obviously, being in Brooklyn, it's probably the biggest celeb haven outside of LA. The one person who we cannot say enough good things about, that has an amazing platform and is an amazing entertainer in her own right, is Susan Sarandon, and the things that she has done to, really put herself out there. But because she's somewhat of an acting legend, she kind of, she's above the ability of the industry to try to knock her off her perch. And that's not something we can really do. There are people who try, like Deborah Messing, but doesn't actually get anywhere. And I think I think a lot of that, as I'm sure you would agree, is born out of envy and jealousy. And when they see that, they get very upset that somebody is as free thinking as they want to be, without worrying, well, is this producer going to hate me now? Is this director going to hate me now? You can't think like that. You got to just do your thing. And I still believe that honesty and integrity are the two most important qualities you can have. And people will respect you for that, even if the higher ups are not necessarily in agreement with that.
Try finding that in politics.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think there's it will get so many people burned to be as honest as they ought to be, that I think it's very scary for the majority of people. But those who I don't know, you were kind of I don't know if AOC is net positive. I think she is unbelievably honest. I think that's one thing that I love about her.
Very net positive. I find her very net positive. I'm not somebody who has ever jumped on the slamming AOC bandwagon. I find that completely counterproductive.
Yeah, the one thing that you can say about AOC is that the fame has definitely gone to her head, but at the same time, she's not.
One thing you can say is that her fame has gone to your head.
No,
that's the one thing you could say about AOC. You got to say one thing if you're going to describe AOC.
He means that's that's the negative thing that
I think that's the fact that she has, and again, people say, well, you're not doing enough in terms of the vote. What I do think is very important, and this cannot be stressed enough, when you're talking about the issues that really matter, and you have such an immensely large platform, that goes a very long way into getting more and more people. It's like a learned reaction over and over again. You keep hearing about, environmental justice, social justice, economic justice, and eventually more and more people become converted, if you will. And by her doing that, that's like anyone who would say, oh, we're no different than if we had Joe Crowley. BS. Well, bullshit, whatever. It really, really does make a difference. But I still think that the hardest nut to crack, and this is kind of why we're sort of stuck, if you will, is the fourth estate or corporate media. It really has an immense stranglehold on a lot of people. And one would say, well, the ratings of CNN, Fox News, MSNBC keeps going down. But now we have this even bigger problem, which is the corporate algorithm that we have to fight through on places like YouTube.
How do you find that? Like well, you're not really, you're talking about controversial things. You're talking crap about the plastics industry. That can't be popular with Google.
I think, I don't know. My views do okay, I guess. I'm not sure. I think it's, like my shtick is like, I'm a comedian first and foremost.
Right.
And my favorite thing to communicate is the climate crisis. So like, I think comedy tends to get a pass sometimes.
Maybe because it seems less harmful. Maybe it softens it. It softens it up a little bit, makes it seem less, scary.
Well, I think we are.
That could be it.
And we're definitely at a point where we need to have some type of, traction. And that's why I keep saying having a call to action is very important. And if we are ever going to, have a plastic ban, we have to figure out what is the consensus. Florida is a very tricky state because we've got these very, funky laws
Florida.
Up in Tallahassee in terms of what is it with the plastic ban? Like you can't do it at the local level.
We actually have a state that has said that our locals cannot ban plastic.
So it literally would have to
that's
be
crazy.
We have a lot of things like that in Florida.
It would have to be an amendment that would have to pass at up in Tallahassee.
Because they keep interfering with home rule. That's one thing. But anything having to do with environment taking priority over money or tourism or making life harder for people in the tourism industry, it's just never gonna fly here.
Well, that's why
it's just not. And plastic straws are way too important.
And when you talk about running for office, if I am ever going to do it, I would run for the Commissioner of Agriculture.
Yes,
it is a very important position, but it's not
very important.
But it's not sexy. It's not a position that people
Definitely
who are
not yet, not till you get there.
Well, hey, now we're talking business here. But the truth is, the people who are politically ambitious and do not give a damn about whether the position they are filling in is actually there to serve the people. Unfortunately, it's the truth. It's all about how do I get to the next rung on the ladder. And the reason I say that is because Nikki Fried, who is running for governor now, really shouldn't be running for governor because she is the Commissioner of Agriculture and she should run for her second term. And when she terms out, then she would be running for governor in an open race.
And instead, she's forfeiting the highest ranked Democratic statewide seat that the Democrats have. She's forfeiting that seat to run for governor and really is not going to beat Ron DeSantis.
Did somebody call her? Let's call her.
Oh,
we call her.
I have a friend who is high up in the party in the state, and he won't say
they're not happy.
He won't say it publicly, but he is unbelievably livid with her. And I told him, I'm like, you have to understand that politics, while it is noble and you want to serve the people, it does not attract as many people on nobility as it does on ego and career-minded approach. Most people are in it for the wrong reasons. And somebody whose only concern is how do I clear the next rung on the ladder is not the person that you want to be electing into office. That is something that's important. So we have from Mega Freak.
Well, I just think that's interesting. What they're saying is it doesn't matter if you ban plastics because we're still demanding it and making it. So it's sort of like you have to stop making it if you keep making it, even though you're. I think that's what that's saying, right?
Yeah, I guess if you ban it, there's less of a demand for the product, so you wouldn't make it to the same.
You wouldn't make as much, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're not wrong though. Like we're sort of the alternative to single-use plastics is probably glass or paper, like a milk carton kind of paper.
Yeah.
But you get into all sorts of like weight issues. For instance, like driving a truck full of glass bottles around takes more fossil
I think we
fuel
need to start thinking about like hemp and bamboo, but
yeah.
I've seen single like use bamboo bowl container type things. Like I've seen that in restaurants before. Which just seems like a better plan to me. It seems, it just seems smarter.
Or a porcelain plate.
But then it's breakable.
Oh, wait.
See, that's the thing. Like when you're talking about
breakable it's breakable, but
here's the thing. When you're talking about Florida, what I envision in my head is you think about the beach and all the restaurants and the open containers and the takeout and all this stuff, because the beach is absolutely filthy and disgusting. Like it's plastic straws, bottle caps. Like we do beach cleanup. So like this is, and when I think about where I see the most plastic, it's from food service things and takeout containers, and it's generally food related. That what we see in terms of like our tourist areas, like the biggest amount. So yeah, if you have something that's made of something that's, bamboo, then it's going to be biodegradable at least. I mean, it's not going to be something it's not going to kill the fish.
It's also one of the biggest problems in Florida,
hopefully,
because it's such a transient state, and especially down here, you don't have community camaraderie, so people just don't care. And
that is a thing.
Yeah, Hollywood, Florida is a great example of that. It's a very touristy type of area, like South Beach.
Yeah,
and you just get people that show up there that just don't care. They flick their cigarette butts everywhere. They throw their trash on the beach. Yeah. And while in the grand scheme of things, maybe it's not that significant compared to other things, it still matters. And just having this whole mindset, like you said before, about it's every person for themselves, and not thinking about, well, is my action actually going to have a negative reaction to somebody who's living here? I always think like that. And unfortunately, that's not how most people think.
We have to think about the nature of the collective. That's what I call it. But then the last time I talked about the importance of us thinking of the collective was when I think somebody called me a communist.
If I'm on the campaign trail, and whether I'm running against a corporate Democrat or I'm running against somebody in the GOP, my answer is very simple. If they say that guy's a communist or they're a socialist and this and that, to say, you could call me whatever you want to call me. All I know is that if I'm in office, I'm going to serve the people a hell of a lot better than you will.
But yeah,
that's a good one-liner.
Caught up,
and then I say, funny how?
Yeah, like I'm a clown, and I am here to amuse you. I'm going to tell you that politics and comedy go hand in hand, because politics is a joke.
We got that written down. You got that in writing.
You can absolutely use it, my friend. You can absolutely use it.
He loves the idea of somebody using
Sell it to me for $1, man. Mail me that note that you wrote comedy is a joke on and sell it to me for $1. I'll buy it.
So funny.
So what if I get the royalties?
So what other stuff do you work on besides Climate Town? Because obviously you're doing other things that is not like, that. I hope so, because if you're only doing that like once every couple of months, you're not doing much. But so I'm assuming
Sure. Yeah, I got a couple of other hustles going on. I do billiards videos. That's part of my shtick is a lot of billiard stuff. There was actually a world championship that just ended today, actually. Albin Ocean of Austria won it over this guy from Kuwait, whose name I can't remember. He's a newish guy. I mean, whatever.
I don't know any of the current people. I read Willie Mosconi's book back in the day.
You remember what?
Willie Mosconi. I read his book back in the old school people, and you even had Minnesota Fats, who really wasn't as great of a pool player as he just was more of a character. But some of that's, you've seen The Hustler, yes?
The what? No, I'm just joking. Yeah, I've seen The Hustler. Yeah, of course. I love that movie.
Just checking, just making sure.
Well, she's a huge fan of Paul Newman.
I am. Well, okay. Anyone who isn't is just wrong.
Yeah, the salad dressing guy or what?
That's exactly. Well,
okay, now he's way more than the salad dressing guy. But speaking of that, though, that was somebody who started a business that was all proceeds go for nonprofit. All of their proceeds of their company have always gone to nonprofit. It's always been that way. So I generally do support their products.
Sure. Paul Newman, that guy, I don't know him personally, but he seems like he's a cool dude.
Yeah. He was a cool dude.
He's been gone for a little while.
Yeah. So I just appreciate that you're a pool player.
This is the first time hearing of it.
What?
Yeah. So Paul Newman died. I gotta send some emails. No, I'm just joking. Anyway, yeah. So I do these billiard videos. I just started a podcast, which is pretty fun.
What's it called?
It's called Sweatpants, a low-key climate podcast.
Cool.
It's, yeah. It is with this company called Climate Control Projects. They're like a new climate company coming up through the ranks. So I think that's launching in
Sweatpants.
Sweatpants, yeah. It's launching on Monday or something.
Oh, cool. So everybody check out that new podcast. And what kind of stuff are you covering? Obviously, I understand it's climate, but
yeah, but it's a low key podcast. So it's mostly I like basically have two conversations. One is with like a climate scientist, and one was with a comedian or artist or somebody. And they're very like it's very low key, and it's not on YouTube. It's on Spotify.
It's a podcast. It's Spotify and iTunes. Right? Spotify and iTunes.
Hell yeah. Wherever podcasts are found, I think.
Wherever
is part of the thing you're supposed to say.
And just
that's what I've heard.
That's where ours is too. So find our podcast.
If you just want to listen, you don't want to see our mugs, and there you go.
Yeah, well, a lot of people like to listen in the car and do, whatever. You listen to stuff in the car.
That's true.
Yeah.
We've definitely evolved. Like, things are just not going to be the same anymore. Podcasts is, you could call it the wave of the future, or just the way things are now normally. But I also don't think people are going to tolerate working in an office 9 to 5, 5 days a week.
I think that's a big part of it, is that people are kind of more mobile. But I so appreciate you coming on and chatting with us. And I want everybody to check out that video. I haven't seen our producer on the chat, so he might not be watching. But John, when you're listening to this, please put the link to the video in the description when you post this.
Omnichrome is absolutely right. Single-use items that are made from other products, and some organizations do consciously make sure that their single-use items are made of paper. Some, I think, use bamboo.
I'm just saying, I remember, and there's also these bamboo, like, instead of plastic forks, knives, and spoons,
right?
Because I put the packs together with my friend, and they were all like single-use bamboo utensils.
Ironically, the place that we went to in Little Haiti that I got my food, they were using the single-use bamboo. I guess it was bamboo. Fork and knife, and
that's cool.
You just have to make the effort, and they all look at it as the bottom line. And I got to tell you, and you're in Brooklyn, so no, it doesn't. Of all the restaurant industries that are probably the most habitually offensive when it comes to this issue, are Italian restaurants. They still use styrofoam. I cannot understand for the life of me how people still use styrofoam.
I don't know.
Yeah, everybody out here is using styrofoam.
Yeah, we have lots of it too.
Yeah,
because it's what's cheapest for them. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, it's legal. It's legal to do that, so they'll do it.
Yep.
Yeah, even though it's like been proven to contaminate food. I mean, I don't want to give McDonald's any credit, but as kids, you can remember when if you ever got a sandwich there, it used to come in a styrofoam container.
Sure, yeah.
They stopped doing that.
The fillet of fish was blue.
Fillet of fish was blue. McChicken was.
I can't even get into that with you. I was a child of styrofoam. I'm a 70s child.
Yeah. I don't eat fast food anymore, so you can't look at me. I don't need any of that nonsense anymore.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking about all this with us. And I mean, this was great. I appreciate it. Everyone check out Rollie's stuff on Climate Town, and Sweatpants is a new podcast that's going to be coming out. And he's very, very good at making the things that really aren't that funny kind of funny. So I'm just saying, like,
even if it's kind of funny, I'll take it. I'll take it.
I mean, it is. It's tragic. I'm thinking you're watching like oceans of plastic washing up on the beach. It's just generally not that funny to me.
But that's why I think the importance of doing these, crossover podcast discussions and things like that. What is that?
Somebody just asked me if I've ever been to the Plantisserie. It's in Miami. It's organic, vegan, home style food.
Oh, that looks interesting.
Now he'll drag me there.
Walk out. Now we definitely got to go check it out. But of course, in Brooklyn, you never have a shortage of all the healthy stuff that you can want to eat. That's
it's great.
One thing that Brooklyn does do well. Reducing the carbon footprint is something that is of immense importance to most of the people who live there. And that is a great thing. And that is what we're trying to do. We're trying to figure out new ways, effective ways to break the stranglehold that big oil has had on our society for far too long. And I think getting past plastic is definitely one of the keys to do that if we're going to really sustain our planet going forward. Rollie, we can't thank you enough for coming on. Your video is fantastic. If you guys haven't checked it out yet,
yes,
the video is on Climate Town, and it's a YouTube channel, and it's about the plastic scam. So that's what you
everybody
want to
check
look
it
up.
out, and
We
it'll
played
be
it
in, when we post it, we'll put it in the description.
We will put it in the description. We'll make our
thank you.
Yeah, we'll make a specific clip just for that particular video. Let's definitely keep in touch, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank
you
you
guys so much. I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely, brother.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later. I mean, talk about fun. and not only that, but you know,
I didn't realize that his primary thing was comedy. I just thought that this guy made this really cool climate video.
That was important.
All I saw was that he was a pool player, and I'm like, okay, well, that's really cool.
And if we're being honest here, you know, we talk about the importance of speaking truth to power and not being a bootlicker.
Well, no, I thought what we would do is we would do story time.
So Jen has a story that she wants to share.
Well, it's story time. So today we're going to dip into the oligarch.
This is really well done.
I know you love my gifts, right? Okay. So, you know, there's several different story times. So today we're going to get into a chapter in the Oligarch Chronicles, which is tales of emasculated men vying to destroy the world. Today we are going to talk about the ProPublica piece that came out for people who are not aware. That a secret trove, I don't know how secret it could be if everybody can get their hands on it, but never before seen records and what this demonstrated about what our oligarchs have been paying in taxes. Now, nobody that knows any of this is even remotely surprised.
They do not pay taxes.
They don't pay taxes. Like, we've always sort of known that their tax rate is obviously different than the earned income tax rate. We've known that they dance around it. There's a bazillion loopholes. And they do this all legally, which is what's so uber disgusting about it. But what we're going to share right now is the actual chart, which I think is very interesting, that shows, this is the chart that ProPublica put out. Now, there is a whole article. I suggest you guys check it out. It's really cool. And it explains how they figure out what the numbers are with this and what is wealth growth versus total income reported and taxes paid. But they calculated this out, and the least was Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett, actually, his true tax rate is 0.1%. No, 10%. Sorry, right?
No, 0.1%. He's the lowest. That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's 0.1. No, it's 10. No, it's 0.1%. Yes, 0.1. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. 0.1% is Warren Buffett's true tax rate. We have Jeff Bezos at 0.98%. So Jeff Bezos is not even paying 1% in a tax rate. Okay. We have Michael Bloomberg, another favorite. Oh my goodness, 1.3%. How's he going to eat?
No wonder he spent so much money to stop Bernie. And remember, he wasn't running for president.
Good God.
He was not running for president. He was running to stop Bernie Sanders, and anybody who thinks otherwise is a damn
So now for people that are Elon Musk fans who love to jump on he's so charitable. Well,
yeah, he's charitable.
Kudos to him for having the highest oligarchy true tax rate. This is 3.27%. So for people out there that are, I don't know, just regular working people, you're paying more taxes than Elon Musk.
Yeah.
It's despicable, really. So again, I don't understand how people are not building guillotines in front of all these people's homes.
Well, they did in front of Jeff Bezos' house.
These people need to know that they cannot build a moat wide enough because this is outrageous. So what you're looking at here, and this is what's really disgusting.
And they even say that the true tax rate for the average person is like 25% or something like that. And that is for the average person. These are the richest people on the planet, and they're paying nothing.
I just want to look at, I forget what length of time that this study was over. It's the past few years.
I think it said 2014 to 2018.
Okay. So it's like a few year period, chunk of time. Okay. So within that chunk of time, okay, Jeff Bezos has had a wealth growth. This is just a wealth growth, okay, of $99 billion in a few years, wealth growth. That is not something that is tenable, people. No. It's just not tenable.
The overwhelming majority, I can't even imagine.
But yet, okay, so but then total income reported is only $4.22 billion.
Very interesting.
Well, all of this. Yeah. So, okay, you look at this and you say, oh my God, Jeff Bezos paid $973 million in taxes. He's sure paying his fair share. Except then you look and you say, oh, it's not even 1%.
No.
This is just outrageous. So,
but he wants to build a ship to the moon. Maybe he really does think he needs to get away. You know, it's again, it's a sad reality of where we are and how far we have sunk. And these are men, you know, masters of the universe, if you will, that really have bought, you know, again, and maybe the worst one is Warren Buffett, because, you know, Warren tries to project himself as being somebody who truly cares. But in reality, he's never done anything to change the system. That he's never.
No, none of them do. What they do is they project themselves as very philanthropic. Oh, I've signed the billionaire's pledge. Oh, I'm going to give half my wealth away. I'm going to do all this stuff.
If they honestly wanted
feed people now.
If they wanted to change Congress in terms of how this country is governed, they could do it like that.
Okay, Jeff Bezos could end world hunger.
He could.
So, you know, I honestly wonder, like, I wouldn't be able to sleep.
We would have universal health care tomorrow.
We would have a lot, right? Exactly. If any of these people, truly cared, things would be different. Yes. That's what I know. Because these people here are infinitely more powerful than the person sitting in the White House.
And this is actually a really great segue to the type of people who allow men like this to stay in power and never be challenged. Because there's always somebody who's going to get on their knees and lick their boots. But I don't think anybody, and I mean really anybody in corporate media, licks boots harder and more pathetically than Brian Stelter.
Bootlicker of the week.
And my Lord, does this guy come off like the most emasculated male I've ever seen. That is something that he has earned.
This is why I had to put a beanie on his head.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he just looks
like like a child who lost his rattle. Like, give me my rattle. Give me my rattle.
This guy is so, and this is Brian Stelter of CNN's Reliable Sources. And I have told you
the irony of calling it reliable sources.
And they're the media watchdog. But what's even more funny is I told you that the guy who had that job before him was like somebody that I knew personally.
Jewish geography.
Right. And he lost the job because of
truth-telling?
No, not, but other issues. And now this guy is there to just toe the line. He looks like a toady.
Well, he does look like a toady.
So talk about, well, I didn't watch this sycophantic Jen Psaki interview. I can't even say her name.
What ultimately ended up happening, and this is why this became...
I also doubt that she wears heels like that, but whatever.
Well, she's actually short, so it wouldn't be surprising.
She's not wearing heels like that. She's not wearing heels like that. Maybe not.
But again, herein lies the real problem with somebody like Brian Stelter, and he just kind of let it go. The veil has been removed. So when he brought the press secretary of the president onto his show, Reliable Sources, he leads with, how can we be better at our job? It's like, this is what it's become.
Why not hold up a sign that says, I'm a stenographer of the government?
That's about as clear as it gets.
Well, you know what? The next time anybody ever says anything negative about countries that have state media, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Because
and they complain about RT. Like, that's the devil.
Okay. State media is what we have, where it just happens to be corporate, but that's how our state is run. So in an oligarchy, state media is corporate media. That's how it works. So that's what we have. And speaking of corporations, so all along, I don't know. Well, are you done with Brian Stelter?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Why Continue. Are you trying to run off with this already?
I'm sorry. I'm not. I wasn't sure. Go on.
Well, I'm going to talk like Brian Stelter now. Hey, listen, Jen. I really want to know what is going to be the needs of the people.
You sound like Mr. Bill.
What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to deliver the news?
Tell us
the right way to do it, so that way people don't suspect us of being in cahoots with you guys. How do we do it, Jen? Oh, crap. We're live. I didn't mean to do that. I mean, honestly, that's what it seems like.
Oh, my God.
And he just has this. First of all, he's also got the most punchable face I've ever seen. He's a little doughboy who's got a really powerful position. And anyone who looks at him and maybe watches one episode is going to say, "Oh, this guy's just willing to get on his knees for anybody." That's it. He's willing to protect the oligarchy at any cost.
Oh, Brian!
If they're willing to pay him, he will take that money and he won't even ask questions. He won't ask questions. He'll ask for seconds.
Are you saying that he's a corporate whore? Is that what you're saying?
I don't know if he's a corporate whore. I just know that he's a corporate stooge.
Okay.
And he really...
Well, except for that he gets their money to do their bidding.
And to even understand how much these guys are paid.
Oh.
And it's based on rate. Now, remember the time that I went on with Ted Koppel and I suggested that if we lost our ratings, that it wouldn't make any difference, that Trump has nothing to do with whether or not people watch our show?
Like, from Seinfeld, the high talker, and Lane thought it was the wife, or they kept mixing.
Excuse me! My name is Brian Stelter, and I'm going to give you the news, and you're going to like it because I tried really hard in school. I am a big dork.
We're gonna get. He's gonna reach out to us and try to maybe we're saying we're sullying his good name.
Be very offended. Don't show this on Twitter. Don't let anybody see this.
I feel like I want to punch him in his vagina.
I don't have a vagina. Stop saying I have a vagina.
Look like you. And by the way, no offense. No, please, nobody get on me about anything having to be offensive about vaginas. I just can't.
I just can't take how people accuse me of not being a very well-kept and productive male. I am very comfortable
At least
in
you
my
didn't say
shows.
well.
I'm well-kept.
Not well hung.
No. No. But I deliver the news, and I do a great job.
Okay. Are you done with Brian Stelter yet?
Not yet.
You've got to stop. I'm gonna move on to something else. Are you done?
Ultimately, he's a very easy target.
Oh, he's horrible.
But
he's like the guy from Animal House.
But he makes it. It's not just because he's an easy target, because it would be one thing if he was just an emasculated man, and that was, that's not a reason to go after somebody. But because he is such a cuck.
No, we could have him. He wishes he could affiliate with these guys.
Yeah,
he wishes he could be with these guys.
He's the type of person who, he's the type of person who is probably. I don't want to. Again, I know that this is like.
Just stop.
I don't want to accuse him of being the type of guy that watches The Real Housewives.
Oh, for God's sake, you know nothing about him.
But
he could be into sports games like you.
No, but he does strike me as the type of person who wants to be in the room with the big boys.
Well, of course, he was willing to take a suck-up jobs after somebody else. Suck-up job.
He wants to be a celebrity.
Oh my
in the
God.
sense that he's a media personality, and that makes him important.
He's like the Robin Leach of the newsroom.
Yeah, he's hoping to eventually become like the type of person who's going to moderate like a presidential debater, is going to be there covering it and that type of thing. Well, that's a source of grandeur that a lot of people have. It's no different than people who run for office at times when they shouldn't, or is just trying to climb the ladder, because that's what somebody like that is always trying to do. So while he is an easy target to make fun of, it's much, much worse because he is horrifically nefarious, and he is always.
Or is he just a tool?
Oh, he is a tool. But that's what makes it even worse, because that is the type of person who will do whatever he has to do to get to the next level. And it doesn't matter how much ass he kisses or boots he licks.
I could see him. I should have put him in like a little diaper. I could see that.
So when people make fun of him, it is completely justified.
All right. So can we move on?
Yes.
Okay. So when we were putting together the thing about the corporations and our corporate oligarchs and whatever, I just sort of had a random muse, which was really what's supposed to be news and a muse in the first place. It was supposed to be news and a muse. So I actually have one today. Today's random musing is, if corporations are people, they should pay the same tax rate as people. So why is it that corporations get to be people as far as free speech, but they don't have to pay tax rates like people do? That's what I want to know. So this is my thought. This is just a muse. That's it.
And it is a great point. And You know who advocates for a flat tax is actually Rand Paul.
Okay, I'm not supporting a flat tax. What I'm saying is that why don't these, if a corporation's a corporation, then it should be paying the same tax rate as somebody who's earning that much money.
The irony is that if we had because again, Rand Paul's concept of the flat tax is a straight flat tax. No, no write-offs, no
I understand
subsidies.
What a flat tax is.
But the point is, if we had a flat tax, ironically, we would have a much more balanced tax system in this country.
No, flat tax is a regressive tax.
That may be true, but what I'm saying is compared to what we have right now.
Oh, well, because we wouldn't have all the loopholes and all the legal theft.
Which
it's
is
basically legal
the
theft.
biggest reasons anyway.
Yeah.
The whole thing, corporate subsidies, like if you've ever looked at, like if you make the average American who is considered above the poverty line, in a, we'll just say any random city, doesn't have to be a major city, but like, mid-level city throughout the country, that income is considered to be around $50,000 a year. And if you look at the amount of money that is taken out of your income for taxes and where it goes, what do you think the number one tax is that you have to pay, that it goes towards? Corporate subsidies is number one. So that shouldn't surprise. It shouldn't surprise.
So
everybody.
My point is let's say the highest tax rate or the highest tax bracket in the country is what? What percentage? What would be the highest tax bracket right now?
Anything that's above 10 million plus per year.
No. What I mean is like what percentage rate is a high tax bracket pay? Like 30%, whatever.
Well, again,
whatever
the
your
top marginal tax rate, I think, is like 38%.
Well, whatever that is should apply to corporations.
Sure.
So if a corporation is having that much money, that's how much percentage they should be paying in taxes if they want to be people.
And I love
or stop saying you're people.
And I love the neoliberals who would fawn over Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney's the person who said corporations are people. If you can't understand how bad
so my point is, while I find that ridiculous, I think that it should be either corporations or people all the way around.
Yeah.
Or they're not people. So, that was my thought.
No, and it is a very sensible thought. And
this
again, this is why when we talk all the time about this stupid infighting that goes on all the time about who's got the right idea, should we be fighting in the Democratic Party, should we be fighting in the third party, all that stuff.
The answer is yes.
So, yeah, you should try everything. There is no silver bullet in terms of how we do this. There are silver bullet policies that would really change things, but most people are not strategic. They're, it's like on a campaign, Dianne Morales.
Most people are struggling to be breathing biped.
That's true. And the whole thing about Dianne Morales' campaign, all the details, the real details, that's not going to come out until after the election. But the one thing that I definitely believe, and I do think that one of the big mistakes that she probably made is that she put people in positions of power that had no business being there.
All right. Are you back on Dianne Morales?
No, I'm back on there for one reason,
okay.
Because being strategic is the biggest roadblock for non-corporate movements in this country right now. People are not strategic enough.
Well, and also there's not a lot of successful blueprints. You know what I mean? Like, and it's really kind of hard, and it almost feels like we're just sort of all learning as we go. And so it's hard that
Jamie's right. 100%. There is this idea, kind of like the weighted vote, that you're more important than I am. Why is that? Well, you shouldn't be.
Right.
There's no sense in that.
One of the things I would like to do is I would like to compile a list of all the people in the state of Florida that are still fighting about trying to keep their weighted vote because they're scared of having to share some of their power. Is there a way for me to get a list of the names of the people that are on the side of that weighted vote? I want to have that scrolling across my screen so that everybody in Florida knows who the people are who are impediments to progress.
And listen, there are people who want to keep the weighted vote, but they are willing to reduce the weighted vote. We will not include them. The people who need to be included are the people who don't want to change at all, who want it exactly the way that it is.
And I still don't understand why we need to have a weighted vote.
Well, again, this is the idea about incremental progress, but it depends on at what incremental level you're talking
And you know what? I'm incrementally saying that is elitist and disgusting. So if you support a weighted vote, then you're an elitist.
Well, again, but why do they do that? Because the Democratic Party infrastructure in the state of Florida is
so elitist.
And true infrastructure is reduced to about 7 or 8 counties out of 67. So that's a problem. And so their focus is basically on keeping it within those, but only small parts. Yes.
I am dying to know who this is. Don't do it. I don't want. Oh no, good God, man. All right, Susie, it's been nice. If you're on, you should leave now.
You know what, man? We gotta have a bipartisan effort. Come on, man. We're never gonna get anything done if we don't agree on some things.
I don't agree with you on anything,
Bipartisan.
Joe.
Bipartisan.
Don't touch my hair, Joe.
I'm sorry. I just can't help myself.
Ugh.
But anyway, we're gonna pass some type of legislation. We just gotta keep the filibuster, man. We're gonna get 10 Republicans to cross over. I know it's gonna happen. They can't keep out of it forever, can they?
Oh.
Look, I know Mitch a long time. I know all these guys a long time. Eventually, they come around. Come on, man. Let's make a deal. Where are the facts, Jack? At some point, the American people got to eat.
At some point, I want to eat.
You want to eat? Oh, that's great, because I want to go to sleep.
Sleepy Joe. Good night, Joe.
I think I did Joe better this time.
It's okay. Again, it isn't you. I just don't think his particular voice is that, like, interesting.
That's pretty much what I said, but when you write it out like that, it's actually pretty funny.
But that is basically, that's Joe Biden dialect right
That's
there.
it. Well, hey, listen, you know, they used to make fun of the previous president and his lack of intellect when it came to saying anything. I'm not sure Joe is really that much of an improvement, if at all. Come on, man.
Okay, so what do we have coming up?
What do we have coming up?
Okay, so on Sunday, and we'll be on with Lauren Ashcraft on her new show called Biting Commentary.
That's awesome.
Yep.
What are we also
And that's
doing?
at 8:00.
We're also going to be delivering
on Tuesday. Yeah, but that's probably just a you and me thing. But we are going to be delivering our hygiene packs and socks to the homeless.
Hopefully, if we're at the point where we're able to do.
What are you doing to your hair,
my
man?
hair got out of my.
What's going on here?
No, so on.
Oh my God. Okay, so we will be doing that on Tuesday. We will be doing our monthly distribution.
See if I can get
Will you stop? Okay, so I'm officially calling it, guys. The last Wednesday of the month, which is June 30th, is going to be our members only Zoom call. So anybody who's a Patreon member, a $5 or $10 Patreon member, between now and then, will get an invitation to our members only Zoom call. And I'm going to come up with something really entertaining. I will be in Asheville when we're doing that.
That's right. Next week are your last two shows.
My last two shows. Well, I'll be on just remotely from my little camper in Asheville. But did you see I made a little logo, like a generational change in Asheville kind of logo?
I didn't see that.
It's
no.
very cool. I will share it with you. Cool. You don't ever look on Canva.
No.
All right. So that's what's coming up. And then hold on. Who do we have coming up as a guest?
On Monday.
Okay. We have two guests. So on Monday, we have Richie Floyd, I'm assuming is a candidate.
Richie is running for, not sure if it's mayor of St. Petersburg, but I know he's running for office in St. Petersburg.
Okay. So Richie Floyd, candidate from St. Petersburg.
So local, Southwest Florida local, but local.
And then really cool is we have
a big one.
We have a big one,
Let
guys.
the drum roll.
We have Norm Finkelstein is coming on, and we are going to really do a deep dive into Israel,
Palestine.
And I generally don't like that, but we're going to be having actually back-to-back shows where we're going to be really dealing with this, because I feel like I've been trying to compile the best way that I can to really get out what I want to communicate about this and what's going on.
This is a person who is considered one of the most important intellectuals in all of politics,
especially on this issue.
On top of that, here is a guy who believes in a one-state solution, that the Palestinians are entitled to the same rights as Israelis. And this is a man who lost his entire family in the Holocaust. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a conversation that needs to be had, and you're not going to want to miss it.
Yeah, so you guys check that out. So that's Monday. We'll have Norm Finkelstein on. Next Thursday, I have two guests that I'm sort of making – I'd say matchmaking, but more just as guests.
Matchmaker, make me a match.
I'm just matchmaking as guests. And so it's going to be George Bisharat and Donna Neville from She's with Jewish Voices for Peace. And George is a scholar and a professor of law out in California. He and I are on a board together for Catch Fire. And I just have this idea that the Jew and the Palestinian and me can have like a really good conversation. So I like the idea about.
And we'll probably end up having maybe, one more candidate because a lot of people are running now, and we want to try to bring as many voices.
Yeah.
We're going to bring a lot of Jen Slate mates that are running again, like Michaela Wilkes and Melanie DeRigo. So, we're going to get a number of people on. So you guys definitely will enjoy a lot of our guests we have coming up. And again, we always have to ask, it's very important. As you know, we are a very suppressed channel, and that is putting it nicely. So the only way we're really able to grow is if we have more Patreon members. And why is that important? Why is that different than any other show that's on YouTube? Well, Jen and I do not take a salary. So any of the money that comes into this show goes directly to community service efforts in Broward and Miami-Dade County.
Yep.
So anything that we can do to help local communities that really need it, like the homeless packages that we're going to be delivering next Tuesday. What are in those homeless packages? Why is that important?
Okay, well, these are little hygiene packs, and they've got like a lot of, unfortunately, after the environmental talk, single-use things. But when you're when you're giving things to homeless people that don't have a place to keep things or a place to store things, and they keep having the police come with bulldozers and knock all their, then tear down their encampments. So I like the idea of regularly supplying them with these hygiene kits. So it's got like, it has a little mini, it has like a little razor, it has like it has some hand wipes. It has, well, we have socks. We have socks.
So we don't have underwear yet.
I don't have underwear yet.
Got to get
I've got hygiene kits and socks right now for this month. It has, let's say, shampoo, soap. I think it has like a little thing of shaving cream. It has like a toothbrush, a little bit of toothpaste. Like it's just basic necessities. And we're going to give that out on Tuesday, apparently.
Yes, we are going to do that.
And this is our first month really doing a distribution. I'm going to see how it goes and then sort of just add as we go with it. I'm also one step closer to fulfilling my idea for doing my community closet.
Declan, you should just become a Patreon because you should just become a Patreon. Keep dangling that over your head that Jen is somehow.
First of all, there's no. Why do we entertain this?
I don't know, because he just wants to dangle.
I know, but the truth is, Declan, you cannot run as an independent or a Republican in District 23 or whatever name our district or number it becomes.
Not if you want to win.
It's just not going to happen.
No. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the one person compliment bot who mentioned that you are in Arizona, unfortunately, that is not a great state for a higher level politicians like Kirsten Sinema. Man, her story.
Show you what they look
her
like.
story arc is amazing. But what the person that I think you should be reaching out to is I think her name is Brittany, I want to say. Oh, wow. Yeah. This is one of the homeless packs that we're going to be distributing. So just so you guys know, this is where some of the money that comes into the podcast is going to go. And it looks like we've got a disposable razor. We've got some soap. We've got, what else do we have here? We have
my goal is to bring these kits, at least these kits monthly, and then we have
deodorant gel. That's
socks.
Good.
Yeah. And then we have socks. And I'm going to, look, I'm going to gradually expand it. I'm still working on my community closet idea. We're a work in progress, people. What can I tell you?
That's a great line. I definitely appreciate that.
What, that we're a work in progress?
No, that we would run if you donate $1 billion if you ran for the birthday party. That's very, very cute. But well said. You definitely were able to segue into that. There is, I don't know why I'm blanking on this lady's name, but she is in Arizona. She is, I want to say she's part of the DSA. I don't know why I can't remember her name right now. And eventually it'll come to me, compliment bot. So make sure you come back for the next podcast and I will make sure that I get you the name of that lady. I don't know why the name Brittany is coming to mind. I think her name is Brittany. I
have no idea who he's talking about. So
yeah, no, it's at some point it will come back to me, and then of course it'll be like right after we get off the live stream. So with that said,
it'll be like when Costanza had to go all the way back.
Yes, jerk star. So thank you very much, and like I said, one more time, guys, if you like what we're doing, you tried to scroll.
Yeah.
That doesn't work.
Oh, it doesn't?
No.
It works on my Surface.
That's why. What were you trying to look at?
I wanted to see that.
I would only say. You're terrible, dude. You really are.
Know who it is.
You're never gonna find out.
Never.
He's probably
gonna
not
know.
Anyway, we appreciate you guys. Thanks as always. Become a Patreon if you haven't yet. It would really help the channel a lot.
So wait, Sunday I'm going to be on with Lauren. Check that out.
Monday, Norm Finkelstein and Richie Floyd.
Is it Finkelstein or Finkelstein?
Oh, goodness gracious. That's not a hill I'm willing to die on. But we really appreciate you all. Have a great evening, and we'll see you real soon.